was angry and I was bitter. And why would this happen to a 5-year-old? My kids are supposed to bury me. I'm not supposed to bury them.
This is the Lost Child podcast, where we delve into the topic of losing a child. These are real stories from real people, sharing some of their darkest moments with us and their journey from that fateful experience. If you're grieving, I hope that you find hope and healing in these stories and you can relate to some of them. If you're supporting someone that's grieving, hopefully you can gain insight into what they're thinking and feeling. As a reminder, our guests are sharing some of their most guarded and precious spiritual and emotional experiences with us. Please keep that in mind when making comments on the video or the podcast. We have a guest with us here today, and she's going to share a little bit about her story. Let's dive into the podcast. First off, thank you very much, Julia, for coming and being on the podcast. Really appreciate it. Just to get started, can you share with us your child's name who ended up passing away?
So my son, Levi, he was age 5.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did Levi have any specific tie why you named him Levi or anything like that?
Well, biblical.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we love the name. And when we had him, it seemed very fitting when we looked at him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about Levi?
Levi was 5 years and 8 months. He was on the spectrum. And he was a very, very sweet, empathetic, kind child. Every day he would eat the same thing for 3 years, a little peanut butter sandwich with gluten-free bread. He was a very quirky, funny little kid.
And did you know he was on the spectrum right from birth, or was it a discovery that happened after?
So he was born with, we were unsure because he had something called Arnold-Chiari malformation, hydrocephalus, and a tethered spinal cord. So we figured it was some delays because of that. And then at 18 months, he was diagnosed.
Okay.
Yes. And then he was nonverbal till he was age 4.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What are some of your favorite memories with Levi?
My favorite memories with Levi is him coming and jumping into bed with me. And, oh my gosh.
Is that more like a morning type of thing? He'd come jump into bed in the morning time?
Jump into bed with me and cuddle. And probably my favorite memories was he was not my picky eater. He was a foodie, so I got to cook for him a lot. And my other kids are very picky. But Levi would eat like everything and love my cooking.
But his favorite was the peanut butter.
His
peanut
favorite,
butter with
yes,
gluten-free bread.
for 3 years. Yeah, that was his favorite thing.
Yeah.
And he got into a lot of mischief and loved playing pranks.
Oh, nice.
And his best friend was his sister. He didn't have a lot of friends because he was on the spectrum. So.
And was his sister older than him or younger?
Just a year older.
Just a year older. Okay.
Yeah.
What kind of pranks did he do?
Oh gosh. So we were at a friend's house up north, and he had this very large house in Prescott. And I don't know that it was intentional. He was often blissfully unaware, but he turned on a bidet in the bathroom and it didn't shut off.
Oh no.
And we don't know if it was intentional. We're not really sure.
Yeah.
But it caused $100,000 flood.
Oh,
What?
wow.
Oh,
Yes.
my.
And then he comes out and we ask him, did you do that? And he goes, covering his mouth, laughing. I'm like, well, sorry.
Yeah.
Like to my friend, and I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
But he was funny. He would play a prank on anyone and everyone. And sometimes funny and sometimes not. But I really loved that he was kind of in his own world because of the autism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's some cool stuff that we're going through right now with our 4-year-old of just that discovery And those are very special moments when they discover something new or discover that they can do something new and how much it lights up their face.
Yes.
That's just an amazing thing to see because they are kind of stuck in their own world in those discoveries and how wonderful the world actually is or simplistic the world actually is.
Yes.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about a day when Levi died? More from your perspective of what you were doing and where and how everything transpired.
The morning that Levi, so he passed away 24 hours, but the morning that he had his accident, we were getting ready to go to dinner. Well, it was in the morning, but our day was we woke up, everybody was getting ready to eat breakfast. And then all three kids, were in the living room. And then, Levi, just for, it seemed like seconds, he disappeared. And we obviously didn't, all Levi talked about that day was going to get Italian food. He was so excited because he was a foodie.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then that morning, he thought that he had eloped. And we later discovered after they had a helicopter looking for him, they had police on foot. They had police in my house looking for him.
Did you find, so you contacted the police, yes?
I did.
You said, I have this 5-year-old son,
Yes.
autistic spectrum,
Yes.
and I can't find him.
You thought he was out somewhere, left the house somewhere.
And by eloped, because I only know eloped from like a marriage standpoint, right? And terminology-wise, correct me if I'm wrong, but that just means that he just went somewhere and you don't know where he went.
Yes.
Okay.
So I thought maybe he was like playing hide and go seek. He loved playing hide and go seek. So I thought, okay, well, that's probably what he's doing. And then we later found out after, we had police officers in the house and they were, looking through the pool, even though that was the first place that I had looked.
Yeah.
And sifting through the pool for about 20 minutes. And then we were upstairs and my daughter and I were looking and there was officers upstairs and again, the helicopter above looking to make sure that he hadn't gotten out. And one of the officers shared with me that he had a 5-year-old son. And he said, oh, I get it. Kids, can, hide. And then he was the one that discovered Levi at the bottom of the pool. Grace and I were upstairs, my daughter, and he starts yelling that he found him in the pool. And then just started hearing sirens. And the female officer, she wanted to protect us. So she body blocked us from going downstairs.
Mm.
Yeah.
And Levi, obviously at that point, he was down a total time, by the time that he got to the hospital, down 45 minutes without a pulse or a heartbeat or anything like that. So they got him out and kept giving him epinephrine and trying to resuscitate him. And that was by far one of the worst days of my life. I rode with one of the officers to the hospital, and as a single mom trying to figure out where my 2 kids are going to go.
Yeah.
And I had a neighbor come and grab them, got to the hospital. I ended up having a stress-induced seizure when I saw him.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. And he was so unstable that he was air-bagged to Phoenix Children's Hospital. And he survived 24 hours and started going into cardiac arrest. And then he was an organ donor, but he passed away in my arms. And I don't think that I have ever been the same since.
I don't think anyone's ever the same since.
No.
And we're so sorry that you had to experience any of that. And given the circumstances, the amount of panic that would have been there of I can't find my kid,
Yes.
to then having officers everywhere, still panic, to complete horror.
Yes.
In a span of a short amount of time.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you said, you saw him get resuscitated at the house? Or,
Yes.
yeah.
And so did my daughter. And so I do have PTSD. I've gone through quite a lot of work on myself to try to be okay. I went through depression. I went through, I feel like almost every parent feels like this, that we feel like dying ourselves. A part of ourself is gone. And I truly, I didn't think that I could survive after Levi passed away.
How long has it been since he's been gone?
So it's been 2 years.
2 years.
2 years.
Yes. Yeah.
And then can we go back into that day a little bit? How long after you couldn't find him did you contact the police?
It was under 2 minutes. Because
Just because you were like, oh, I can't find him. I need to do something.
Yes, I was panicked. And so I was like, okay, well, he doesn't, not in the pool, not in the backyard, not in the house, frantically running all over.
And how did that conversation go with the police? Like, I'm just curious what you would have actually, if you remember what you said. Hey, I'm so-and-so.
I was crying and yelling. I have a son. He's 5 years old. He has a shirt with a dinosaur on it. He was wearing shorts.
Yeah.
And giving his description in case that they found him running around.
Yeah.
And that was his favorite shirt too. And that was the shirt that he was in.
And then after the police actually showed up, how long after that did they find him?
It was 20 minutes.
20 minutes.
After. So they were going through the pool and they didn't think that he was in there. So sifting through the pool. And then the officer that had the 5-year-old son started yelling and started crying that he found him. Thank you.
That's one thing too, as a side note, is some of the things that the first responders, the policemen and the women within the police force also go through a lot of traumatic experiences themselves.
They do. And I'm so incredibly grateful for them. And I'm grateful for that. I feel like they treated us like family that day.
Yeah.
And they looked for him like he was looking for his son.
Yeah.
And he shared the grief, with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't thank them enough.
Here's also a reminder to subscribe and follow this podcast on whatever platform you're listening to. Now, back to the podcast. What were some of those emotions that happened right in that 24 hours that transpired of finding him in the pool and then organ donor stuff and then also he essentially dying in your arms? What were some of the emotions and feelings that you went through in that?
The emotion, when we decided to donate, was very difficult. They, came into the room and asked a couple times because I get it. Other people are, desperate and need help.
Yeah.
and decided to help as much as we could.
Yeah.
That would still allow us to be with Levi at the end of his life. So he was a partial donor. So he didn't do full donation, but I wanted him to be in my arms when he passed away.
Yeah.
But I was very grateful that I was able to hold him, and we had worship music on, and we were all sad and crying, and all of his family was there. And after he passed away, something that I feel like it's not talked about enough.
Yeah.
And there's still a stigma around it, is feeling depressed.
Yeah.
I think that's for not just child loss, but anyone.
Yeah.
Depression, feeling suicidal, feeling like you can't go on. It was really bad. And that's how I felt when he passed away.
How long did you feel like that for?
I actually felt like that till recently. So I finally made my way out of the depression with a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
So
What were some of the tools that you used to help you?
Prayer.
Yeah.
We are a Jesus believing family, and I'm so grateful for that. And I have a wonderful psychiatrist that I go to. And then trauma therapy. And I'm doing some other stuff too. I'm doing something called Spravato.
Oh, okay. What's that?
Which is really cool. So it's like so it's ketamine, but it's like a through the nostril.
Oh,
And
interesting.
so so it helps with depression, it helps with PTSD, it helps with processing emotions.
Yeah.
So it's really cool. It's very helpful.
How long have you been doing that for?
So I did 12 weeks about a year and a half ago,
Okay.
and then I just started it again last week.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So they have some places around the valley that do that. Offer
Yes.
it?
Oh my gosh. So I really love the place that I go. So it's off of 67th Ave and Thunderbird. And it's a really amazing place. If you need a psychiatrist, it's Sahara Behavioral Health. And they're amazing. They're compassionate. And yeah, if it weren't for Jesus, and if it weren't for my community and my psychiatrist and my 2 living kids, then I wouldn't be here.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard. And it's hard to explain that to other people, the amount of pain that comes in and the escape that you want from the pain.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. And when at one point after Levi passed away, where I was doing so unwell that I had a family member having my 2 other kids. And this is a really awful feeling, but sitting on the bed and, and you can edit this out if it's not okay to share, but he was a very, very big part of my world. And sitting on the bed with a clock and just thinking like, there's no way that I can go on another moment, and that just feeling that my heart is broken, and it's still broken. It always will be. But then I went into prayer, and I kept saying, Jesus, I can't do this. So that's what I would do every time that I felt like that. I would just say, Jesus, I'm giving it to you. This pain is too bad, and I can't handle it. So,
And I think that is something that a lot of people don't necessarily talk about, but the struggle, I think, is real, and it's so different than I guess I would say it's different than other other things, dealing with depression and stuff, the loss of a child is something that, it's just so painful. And the number of times I've heard, I don't think I can do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gosh. So probably till a couple of weeks ago, I was saying that to myself. I can't do this. I can't do this. Keep telling my, sister, I don't think that I can do this. I need to make sure that my kids are set up and okay if I'm not going to be here. Mm-hmm. And that's like a really difficult thing to feel like. And I, the people that are close to me kind of knew about it. But I don't think that unless you've gone through child loss, that you can really understand that pain.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that, because it is important for others to know that it is so painful to the point where you don't want to continue on.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I feel like besides taking care of my kids, I neglected a lot of self-care for myself because I was absolutely taking care of my kids, but that's all that I could manage to do was take care of my kids, and there was nothing left over. So the only energy that I had was putting towards my 2 living kids, and there wasn't anything left over for me. And, decided that, I have to, kept saying I have to be here for my kids. I have to figure out a way to survive after child loss.
Following Levi's death, and then you would have had like a funeral or memorial service for him. But amidst all of that, at what point did you say, I need some help? Where you did start seeing a psychiatrist or other things to try to help you cope with it? How soon after did you turn to something?
So immediately after, because I knew that I wasn't okay. Mm-hmm. And I wanted, to be there for my children. So immediately after, and I can't even count the times that at this point that I have seen my psychiatrist and trauma therapy and just all those, things that we need to do to be okay. And I have no shame in that. I would like to encourage anyone that has had child loss, if you're feeling depressed or suicidal, to seek mental health help and not be ashamed, because we're all human.
Yeah. One thing that I was surprised to discover is that there's grief specialists, there's trauma specialists, there's even loss of child, there's conferences or groups that you can meet with. There's lots of different tools out there, but just from my innocence from before, I was like, oh, a therapist's a therapist. That's not necessarily the case. They specialize in very specific circumstances. And so we've met with a grief counselor. We've also met with some different trauma therapists, stuff like that, general counselors also. But it's just kind of interesting because there's lots of different tools out there that I think people need to be aware of and know that there's possibility for stuff like that.
Definitely.
Have you had your kids start any therapies?
So yes, my daughter is doing, very similar things that I'm doing. And thank God that Matthew was aware. He was not even 2. He was a year and a half when it happened. So he misses his brother and he knows that he's not there. And but my daughter, I make sure that because of what we saw, that all of us are taking care of our mental health.
Yeah, that's super awesome that you are getting your kids help as well. That's very important.
Yes.
So, how did you feel I know obviously you said lots of depression. Were you angry at God for what happened?
I was. I was angry, and I was bitter and thinking, right, why would this happen to a 5-year-old?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
These, tragedies. My kids are supposed to bury me. I'm not supposed to bury them.
Exactly.
So,
Would you say you still are mad at God?
no.
What helped you to overcome that?
Just getting really close with them. And that this is a hard pill to swallow, but horrible things happen. And it's not God. And as a believer, I mean, I do know that. And, just letting go. And, it's been really, really difficult, but I feel like this, as a Christian, I know that there's good and there's bad.
Mm-hmm.
And God is not responsible for the bad things that happen in this world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yes.
Some other things that kind of go along with anger is getting into the grief cycle that many psychologists will talk about when somebody goes through something where they're grieving. And that's an attitude or feelings of anger. You end up having things like bargaining or depression, acceptance, and then
Denial.
you also have denial, like there's no way that this could happen.
Yes.
Did you go through any, excuse me, did you go through any of those stages of grief?
I did. I went through the denial, like waking up, like we had talked about, waking up and thinking, this can't be real. Going to my son's room, Levi's room, and just checking to make sure that it wasn't a bad dream.
Yeah.
And then
And there's sometimes it really does feel like it's just a dream.
Yeah, it was. I just felt like it had to be a bad dream. And then there was finally acceptance because Levi being on the spectrum and feeling like people didn't care very much about him, and having the medical issues, having the Arnold-Chiari malformation, hydrocephalus, tethered spinal cord. He was also global and intellectually delayed.
Mm-hmm.
And about a couple weeks before he passed away, he told me, he says, "Mommy, I'm going to heaven and I'm going to be with Jesus. And I'm going to be with grandma and my aunts, and I'm going to be with everyone. And I'm not going to have autism anymore." And he said, "And I'm going to be growing into a big boy." He was tiny. He had a failure to thrive. And I said, "Levi, no, we don't, pass away till we're old. You're not going to heaven. That sounds beautiful."
Mm-hmm.
But he asked me, he's like, "Can you explain to me what you think heaven is like when I go there?"
What did you say?
And I said, I think it's beautiful. I think that all of our loved ones are there. And I think that the streets are made of gold and that we have mansions and that all of our family members are there.
Mm-hmm.
And he asked me, he says, "So I won't have autism anymore and I won't get made fun of?"
Oh, gosh.
And I said, "No." I said, "We're made whole.
Mm-hmm.
When we go to heaven, we don't have the elements that we have on earth. We're brand new." So he got very excited and said, "I want to go to heaven right now and be with Jesus." So that was a part of, for me, as much as it hurt, that I know that he is in heaven and he's whole. And he is a big boy like he wanted to be.
Yeah.
And that he doesn't have autism and he doesn't have all the medical issues and he's not in pain anymore.
And he's with family.
And he's with family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, is your family a good support system for you?
So, I have, out of all of my family, like immediate, I only have one sister left. My parents are deceased and 3 siblings, all aunts and uncles. Yeah. So, I have mostly found my support system to be usually over Facebook.
Okay.
So, and then, my community and my neighborhood, they reached out a lot. Mm-hmm. And then there were there's a really great Facebook group for moms that helped me a lot. Have always been there for me. Mm-hmm. So, although I may not have, I consider all of my friends family. So, but I have just one family member left that is the immediate. So one sister.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's a tough one.
So your friends were pretty supportive and have been supportive for you.
Yes. And I think that, people get busy and they kind of do the best that they can do, but it's all been, yes, thank goodness for Facebook and YouTube and all these like wonderful things and technology that allows people to be supportive even if they're far away.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, we'll jump back to the podcast in just a second. Following the death of Sonny, I was gifted a book. This book right here. It's called Like a River. It's a story about Granger Smith. I think this book is an incredible book, specifically about losing a child. Granger Smith goes into great detail about his experience losing their son, River. If you want to purchase this book, I'll put an Amazon affiliate link down in the video description or podcast description. By purchasing this book through the link we give you, the Lost Child Podcast will receive a small commission, which will help support the podcast, help get more guests on here to share their stories, to help more people with hope and healing through their grief journeys. Thank you for your support of the Lost Child Podcast. Now, back to the podcast. What have you seen through the last couple of years of that support system, of it coming together, and then how strong did it stay since time has been transpiring?
Yeah. So in the beginning, I think that, people say, I'm going to be there for you. Call me anytime that you need something. Mm-hmm. All the love is pouring in, and I'm not saying that it isn't now, but it's different in the beginning. So everybody rallies around you. And then, I guess, and it's not, they absolutely should go back to their lives. And, but then it starts to, kind of go away.
Yeah.
And that part is difficult.
How have you coped with that, of almost the diminishing support? It's not that people need to just be there for your every need. That's not what we're saying. But there is this sense that almost everybody that we've talked to has felt that there's this huge rush of help right when the accident with Levi happened. Mm-hmm. And then as time goes by, everyone just goes back to their normal life, but you're still sitting there in this very dark place.
That was difficult. And so I use my Facebook, and, I talk about grief on there a lot and reach out to friends. And that was about the only thing that could really, my relationship with Jesus, and and also being in just a very isolated place. When you're going through child loss and grief and depression and all of that, you don't feel like going anywhere or doing anything. At least in my situation, I didn't. But staying in touch with people over Facebook has been a good one.
What are some of the things that I assume you've talked to your psychiatrist about this, of I don't feel like I can really do anything, want to do anything? What are some of the things that he or she has suggested to you when you're in one of those moments?
So, simple things. when you're feeling that down and depressed, that things like get up, brush your teeth, take a shower, get dressed, do things with your kids, spend quality time with them. Don't stay in bed. That's a big one that you have to fight when you're going through depression.
Yeah.
So, and then of course, the therapy.
So was it your psychiatrist that had referred you to the ketamine?
So yes, it's all in-house. So
it's all at the same
love
place.
this place
Okay.
because it is all in-house and they do it there, and they have multiple locations. But they have trauma therapists, EMDR, TMS therapy. They have actual ketamine injections, which essentially that's the same thing that I'm doing, but it's just administered a different way. So it's a wonderful place.
Does your daughter go to the same place?
She goes to a children's place.
Okay, so the place that you go to is like specifically for adults?
So they actually help everybody, but it's kind of like for her, she had tried it, but it's not a one size fits all.
Yeah, of course.
So she seemed to do better with a pediatric place. So I ended up going back there because that's where she was more comfortable.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Which is actually good to understand that a glove doesn't fit everybody's hand, right?
No, it
or a shoe
doesn't.
doesn't fit everyone's foot. There's so many different tools out there. There might be similar tools, but you might feel more comfortable with one tool versus the other, and understand that even your spouse might feel better with one than you, or your child might feel better with one versus the one that you are. So I applaud you for having that self-discovery and then trying to help her in the best way that she can, even if it does cause an inconvenience, right? Because it would be convenient to have it all at the same place, all at the same time.
Yeah.
But that's not necessarily the world that we live in.
Yes.
We're all individuals. We're all individualistic, and we have things that will help us individually. So that's awesome that you're helping your daughter that way.
Yes.
So you'd mentioned that you were single when this happened. You're still single now.
I'm single, sole custody.
Sole custody. Okay.
So I felt very blessed to have my kids all the time.
Yeah.
It can be overwhelming.
Yeah, of course.
Because I don't have, my sister has 5 kids. Like she, can extend, support, but, just can't, she's very, very busy. So it's just me, myself, and I. But that's okay. I've had sole custody for quite a while.
Okay.
And I figured out how to make it work and juggle things. And, but yeah. So I'm hoping one day that I will get remarried to a Christian man, and that I won't be alone anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of different things, a lot of different paths that make each person's individual experience so different than anyone else, right?
Yes.
Because sure, we lost a child, and sure, you lost a child, but what we experience are so different.
Yes.
There's a lot of similarities there too. The pain that's there. I think one of the things that you explained is how there's a piece of you that essentially died, and it doesn't come back, right?
Yeah.
As much as we want a Band-Aid to go over it and heal it, it doesn't get healed.
The Julia that I was died that day.
Yeah.
I'm not the same Julia.
Yeah.
I was, and not in a bad way, this soft, soft in a good way. Julia, and now I'm tough. I wish that I didn't have to be this tough, but that Julia's gone. But I'd like to think that it made me, this whole situation, a better, compassionate human being and that I'm better today.
Yeah.
Do you feel like it's hard to learn about other people who have lost children? Does it like hit you?
It absolutely aches and breaks my heart. But I'm actually connected with about 1,000 families. That breaks my heart to know that it's so common. I didn't realize that till I lost a child.
Yeah.
And then I started posting and sharing my experience. And then in some groups too, and finding out that it's really common, child loss.
Yeah. There was just a drowning over here
Last night.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just makes me hurt for that family.
It does. It is heartbreaking. And, and then there's, I feel like, every parent, we all, however our kids pass, we all feel like, what could we have done, differently? At least, I did. And it's difficult. And, even though we're not at fault, there's that sense of guilt and heaviness. And replaying what happened.
And though it could have been. That goes back to the grief cycle that they talk about, and that's the bargaining of what if I would have done. And with an understanding that it's not just you that goes through that grief cycle, neighbors go through the grief cycle, your own kids go through the grief cycle. I even had a conversation just last night with our son, because this accident happened over by us, and he said, I know how to swim. I wish I would have been there to dive down to get them. Which then turned into, again, stuff about Sonny, of him saying, I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have jumped in the water to save her. Things like that. And understanding that even our kids and even family members and neighbors and other people would go through the exact same stuff and have some of that guilty feeling of what could I have done different to make this tragedy not happen.
Yeah.
Everyone goes through that. And it's a perfect example of our 4-year-old going through that exact thing, processing again. I wish I could have done something different to change the outcome.
Yes.
Yeah.
A few days ago, there's still a part of me that thinking, gosh, I wish this didn't happen. And I wish that, and thinking, God, I wish that I could undo this tragedy, undo it, and that I could have Levi here. That's even 2 years later, feeling like that, and just, thinking that it sucks having to move on or move forward. I'm not.
Yeah.
No one. I can't move on.
Yeah.
I can't move on. Yeah. I will never move on. And I've had some people say to me, Julia, it's been 2 years. You need to get over it. And I'm like, well, a lot of those people, though, don't have kids that usually say it.
Yeah.
And that's nothing that, you get over. I just know that I'm enjoying my time here on earth, but I can't wait till I'm reunited in heaven with Levi.
Yeah. Well, it's important to point out that, yes, we do understand that there's a heaven and that we're going to be with them again, but it still doesn't make it really that much easier for now while we're here on earth.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. It still hurts.
Yeah.
But I know that at least, especially my daughter, it gives her hope that, we'll see him again. And when he passed away, I hugged him and held him and said I would see him later. We didn't say goodbye.
Yeah.
Because it isn't goodbye forever.
Do you talk with your kids often about him?
We do.
Oh,
every day. It's the trippy part. My toddler, says that he sees him often, and
Oh, wow.
it could be he could, or it could be imaginary that he wants to see him.
Yeah.
But plays with him often, and Grace talks about him every day. They were best friends, and it's been really tough without her best friend. And I feel like through all this trauma, that she says that I'm her best friend. And there's another aspect that I didn't know that occurs is something called trauma bond. So even like with my ex-husband, because he was obviously there, his dad, when he passed away, and we have become friends, very close friends. So going through a trauma together and becoming very close. And, maybe that isn't everybody, but that's definitely like been my experience. Yeah.
When I think that your younger son, what was his name again?
Matthew.
Matthew. Okay. I think that Matthew and other little kids are so close to heaven that he probably is playing with Levi.
Yes, the innocence. Like I absolutely, I do think that he's playing with them.
Yeah, I think so.
I do. And, Grace told she was, at one point, with all of her family members that passed away, she was seeing family members, and then they grow out of that like very innocent age and grow into childhood where they're still innocent.
Yeah.
But like you're saying, being close to heaven and that innocence and being able to see our loved ones.
With Levi's passing, did it change any of the way that you parent?
It did.
In what ways did it change?
Not wasting a second. Not, I was a great mom, but saying yes more often to ice cream at 10 o'clock at night, and even a softer way of parenting, just because they are fragile. And so it has changed the way that I parent, with a deeper sensitivity and understanding, and that my kids are allowed to have mental health days after, Levi passing away.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's definitely changed a lot. And thankfully now I feel like we are starting to experience some joy again.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Do you feel like your perspective has changed on things where you don't feel like some things are as important as you once thought they were?
Yeah, it's like, so, for instance, if my kids want to hang out and, they want to spend time with mama, and I need to do laundry or dishes, I'll put it off and I'll get up early in the morning. I'll hang out with them. I would absolutely move heaven and earth for them.
Yeah.
Having either clean or dirty clothes all over the floor is honestly not that big of a deal.
No, it's not. As long as your kids, they come first, and their happiness and making sure that they are doing well and that they're thriving, and that comes first. Happiness. Dishes and laundry can wait. Bless you.
Thank you.
And, I'm making beautiful memories. I'm never going to miss an opportunity to do that with my kids.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. I just had something and I totally forgot it.
Brain fart.
Yep, I totally did.
That's called daddy brain.
One thing you talked earlier about was actually being happy again or finding joy, right? And then you talked about your children's happiness too and how important that is, the ones that are currently alive. Have you felt guilty at all for having happy days and good days?
Yes.
Then what did you do to combat that? Because that is a real thing that all of us experience, because we've had this awful thing happen to us, and then all of a sudden we have a good experience or a fun day or some happiness, and we all feel this guilt of, I shouldn't be happy right now. My child died. I shouldn't be happy.
Yes.
So how did you combat that? How did you get over that so that you could just enjoy the happiness of being with your other kids or the other things you're experiencing in life?
It's been incredibly hard. And I think that when we're feeling happy and that I feel guilty for being happy or experiencing joy, we try as much to honor Levi.
Yeah.
And whatever we're doing. So that's definitely, it's a very hard one. Because even now, it's like, it's a weird feeling to, I didn't think that I would ever be in a place. I will always feel a little bit broken.
Yeah.
But I never, I'm proud of myself for, being able to heal a little bit and experience joy with my kids again.
Yeah.
And so, but that's definitely our hard one. And doing things like, Levi was cremated, but buying him little gifts and, kind of putting it around his urn. And, my daughter sings to him.
Yeah.
In heaven, and when she's when she's missing him, and so she'll sing to him.
That's special.
And on his birthday, she sang happy birthday to him. And we release balloons, biodegradable, so don't get mad at me. So biodegradable, but we're always honoring him.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I realize it's only been 2 years, but was there anything that in 2 years you've discovered that was super helpful to you that you wish you would have started sooner?
Yeah. I wish that I wish I took care of me.
Yeah.
And I was just in such a place. I wish that after I was just trying to survive and hanging on by a thread, and I was just taking care of my kids.
Yeah.
I wish that I had taken care of myself, and I wish that someone had been around to tell me, Julia, get up and brush your teeth, take a shower. Because the reality it was that bad, staying in bed and in my robe and, not, people not knowing how bad it was.
I relate it to being on an airplane, and they give you the safety procedures all the time. I've never been on an airplane that needed the oxygen masks to pop down, but they always tell you, put on your own oxygen mask first and then help your kids. Mm-hmm. And I think it's the exact same thing in this situation, but so many people get focused on, and myself included, I need to help everybody else. But then that depletes and drains you, and then you're unable to survive. That's the whole point of this, is what you're pointing out is you need to help yourself first, so that you could fully invest and still help your kids.
Yes.
The short term would have been just help your kids, but then that's not sustainable.
No, that's a perfect way to explain it. I wish that someone had told me, Julia, you have to take care of yourself if you want to be able to fully take care of other people.
Yeah.
And I was taking good care of them. But I could have been at 100% if I was taking care of myself and I wasn't on an empty gas tank trying to take care of other people. Mm-hmm. So, yes, I wish that I knew that.
Yeah.
But I know that now.
Well, thank you for sharing that experience and what you wish you would have done sooner. And holistically, thank you for even coming on the podcast, sharing with us your thoughts and the whole thing about Levi. Again, we're so sorry that this ever happened to you.
Thank you. And thank you for letting me be here. And I am deeply sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
And from one bereaved parent to another, I love you guys, and I will be praying for you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate that.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us on the Lost Child podcast. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe. And remember, shine bright, and we'll see you in the next episode.